Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael Sanders. I will be Master's of Ceremony for today. I'm a student at Augusta University. On behalf of Augusta University's Department of History, Anthropology, and Philosophy, and in partnership with the Georgia Historical Society, the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History, and the University of South Carolina Center for Civil Rights, History, and Research, I want to warmly welcome each of you to this special occasion, the unveiling and dedication of a state historical marker honoring Reverend Dr. William Jefferson White Sr., a man known across Georgia as the Georgia Baptist Man. We are gathered here at Harmony Baptist Church, a sacred space he helped bring to life, to pay tribute to a man whose impact transcended the pulpit and reached classrooms, communities, and civil rights platforms across the region and beyond. The purpose of today's event is not just to unveil a marker, but to recognize a legacy. We are here to reflect on the life of a man who co-founded what will become Morehouse College, who ministered, organized, educated, and advocated in the face of injustice, and whose spiritual and civic leadership helped shape the soul of Augusta. This marker represents more than history. It represents memory, meaning, and movement. It stands as a permanent reminder of the progress forged by those who came before us, and it invites the present and the future to listen, learn, and lead with courage. We are honored to share this moment with members of the community, scholars, clergy, students, and guests from near and far. Whether you are here as a descendant, a neighbor, a historian, or a supporter, your presence today helps ensure that the legacy of Reverend Dr. William Jefferson White lives on and continues to inspire. Thank you for joining us in the important act of remembrance and celebration. Welcome. So, we will have a brief history of Reverend William Jefferson White by Dr. Barbara Donaldson. Following that, we'll have remarks by Dr. Melissa DeVelvis, and then we'll have remarks by students of Dr. Melissa DeVelvis, Ms. Aria Harper, and Mr. Mike Sanders.
Good morning. So I'm Dr. Bobby Donaldson, and as I was coming in, a Harmony member said, "You're little Bobby Donaldson." And that I am. I am deeply honored to be back in this city, in this church that helped shape and mold who I am. I first want to begin by thanking my longtime friend, Corey Rogers. I was going to say Corey and I have known each other for 30 years, but it's 40 plus years that I've known him, and we're still young men. To Dr. Melissa DeVelvis and her students, the Georgia Historical Society, and especially Pastor Simmons and the members of Harmony, thank you for opening your doors for today. I also want to acknowledge Bonnie Blocker and her children, who are descendants of the Reverend William Jefferson White. And I want to lift up today in memory two people who influenced greatly my own thinking about William J. White, and they were the late J. Philip Waring, local historian, and Mrs. Josephine Harold Love, William J. White's granddaughter. The Civil Rights Center that I lead at the University of South Carolina is very pleased to join this program. I grew up here at Harmony Church, a church established by Reverend William J. White on May 10th, 1868, 157 years ago. That sacred act, 157 years ago, led a group of men and women from Old Springfield into what some called the wilderness of Augusta, near the corner of Hopkins and Campbell Street, near an area that would later be known as the Territory or the Terry. But that movement was more than just the founding of a church. It was the declaration of a vision that faith, hard work, and education would be pillars of a new future for newly emancipated people. And William J. White led the way. Now, as a little boy, growing up in this church, in the church that was next door, I studied William White every Sunday, not knowing what I was doing. For there was in that church a portrait of a distinguished-looking man who looked to me to be white, a white person. And as a little boy in Old Harmony, I was asking, how is it that the founder of the Black Baptist Church is a white man? Who is this man? Now, I never imagined all those decades ago that I would be spending my career answering that question. What manner of man is this? We look at letters, newspapers, and sermons and ask that question. Now, those who are members of Harmony would also know that in addition to the portrait of William J. White, there was on the left side of the church a white marble tablet dedicated to William White. Those who entered today walked past it outside. It honored William White and Professor A.R. Johnson. And the inscription at the very bottom said this: "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." That was the first marker honoring William White, a man born in Elbert County, Georgia on Christmas Day, 1832. Born in obscurity, who would one day become one of the most influential African American leaders, not only in Augusta, but around the country. A man who married an enslaved woman named Josephine Elizabeth Thomas. A man who joined Springfield Church and was ordained there. A man trained as a carpenter and a cabinet maker who later built institutions. In 1877, we know he helped to establish Augusta Baptist Institute, a school founded at Springfield, later moved to Harmony Baptist Church, that is today Morehouse College. This little boy, born in obscurity, helped to establish Spelman and Atlanta University. This little boy helped to recruit the famed teacher, Lucy Craft Laney, to Augusta. He helped to establish Ware High School, and he stood alongside other giants: Lucy Craft Laney, John Hope, Judson W. Lyons, a member of this church, John Wesley Gilbert, and Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. In 1880, he established the Georgia Baptist newspaper. In that newspaper, he fought against segregation, disfranchisement, and racial violence, even when those words brought mobs, lynch mobs, to his doorstep, a doorstep that was only around the corner. If you know the parking lot of Church's Fried Chicken, that is where William J. White's home once stood. When this man died, tributes came from everywhere. Charles T. Walker, once a critic of William White, said this at his funeral: "The future historian cannot write a complete history of our race in general or the Baptist denomination without giving conspicuous and honorable space to the life and deeds of William J. White." Silas Floyd said, "In many respects, Dr. White is our most remarkable colored citizen." And then one newspaper, almost anticipating this very day, said this in 1913: "Dr. White's service in his life was extensive and unselfish. He has lived a life that is truly worthy of emulation by all and should be an inspiration to the younger generation, to set them toward ideas of high standards of citizenship." That is what they said in 1913. And as I look around this room today, I see so many familiar faces. And I see there are some of those who once stood at Harmony who are no longer here. And I'd like to imagine what they would say on a moment like this. Reverend Floyd Hurd, what they would say, Deacon John Tillman and Harry Burke and Roosevelt Tutt and John Pugh and Brother Hill, what would they say? They would probably lift up a familiar standard that we heard all the time in Harmony that embodies William J. White, a charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky. To serve the present age, my calling to fulfill, oh, may it all my powers engage, to do my master's will. Today we come to honor a gentleman whose life teaches us much, but especially teaches us how to teach, how to serve, and indeed how to fight in the present age. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Oh, that's great. Way better than my students as far as morning's responses go. It's kind of strange to follow Dr. Donaldson in that an undisclosed amount of years ago, I was TAing for him in the Booker T. Washington Auditorium in Columbia, South Carolina, and learned more about the local people than I think I have in any other class. And I was a teaching assistant. This wasn't my class. But it does bring into what I love most about local history, and that is that on a micro level, it represents so much of what's going on in a southern scale or on a statewide scale or even nationally. But here we have examples of actual people doing these things, and we can make those connections, and those connections are still here with us. And it just makes me feel like a mad scientist just finding all these connections, but that's what's so wonderful about public history and also Reverend Dr. William Jefferson White, is that he's a connection to Reconstruction, a time period that to this day is still dismissed as a failure when really it was a moment for Black emancipation and progress and democracy, and it was at Springfield where they talked about these things in 1868. It was Dr. White who was writing about things in the Colored American and the Loyal Georgian, a newspaper, a Republican newspaper in Augusta. When we talk about very public and horrifying lynchings, he spoke out against them in his paper and was pushed out of town, I believe twice, run out of town for daring to speak out against racial violence. And so all of these issues, and of course Ware High School, the struggle against segregation in schools, going to Supreme Court, he's here in all of these things, and it's just so neat to find these connections. And then what my class got to do, my public history class of undergraduates, every final project for this course, I have them work with a local community group. And they get to do something that I certainly did not get to do as an undergraduate, which is to actually create a project, a history project for that community. You can do mock things, like make a faux exhibit or do some collection items or practice the practice of public history. But it's so rare, and I'm so honored to be able to have them produce something that the community benefits from and that they can put on their CV. And so one year it was with Red Cliff Plantation State Historic Park just across the river doing stable redesign. And then I turned to my friend Corey and I said, hey, what do you want us to do for you? Because we're at that level of just, hey, what do you want? What is manageable for undergraduates who are not necessarily experts in Georgia history? They're taking a class on public history. And he said, because Corey's never written a marker nomination in his life. No, he has never gotten a historic marker for the city of Augusta, ever. And so he said, you know what? William Jefferson White needs one. He's got monuments here in several small places, but he deserves to be part of this Georgia story. And so my students wrote the application. They had to make choices that public historians do in that where's the best place to put it? How do we take this man's life and put it in a certain number of words on a plaque, which is so difficult, especially if you like to yap in the way that I do, to condense and get the words that pack the most punch, but also are the most accessible to as many people. And these are considerations that public historians have to make, and my students did that. And it was so wonderful. They did the entire nomination, and then over the summer, Corey and I Zoomed with Dr. Donaldson, and we're like, all right, so we gotta double check all of our facts, because this would not have been possible without his work and his research. And they pretty much used you and Cashin for how to find information on this man. So it's just such a great opportunity for my students. There are a lot of nominations for Georgia Historic Markers every year, and so the fact that we made it through the entire process is so exciting and was not expected. I told my students ahead of time, listen, you're writing this, but it has nothing to do with you if this doesn't make it through, and yet here we are. And so, yeah, it's great. So thank you to Dr. Donaldson. Thank you to Corey for collaborating with me on this and so many other things. Thank you, of course, to Georgia Historical Society for having this program in the first place. And if you ever have a moment to advocate for anything, humanities education and outreach is important. Public history is important. Art history is important. And let's make sure that we can continue to promote this history throughout our time here. Thank you.
All right. It is both a privilege and an honor to stand before you today as we recognize and celebrate the legacy of one of Augusta's greatest, Reverend William Jefferson White. And I also just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Melissa DeVelvis, whose guidance was instrumental in helping us bring the marker to fruition. It was through her knowledge and wisdom and support that we were able to even do this. And, you know, it was times where we almost wanted to kind of give up, and we were, like, kind of scared, especially when Mr. Corey Rogers came to the class and kind of looking at us with his intense stare. But nonetheless, Dr. DeVelvis helped us through the process. I also want to thank my fellow classmates, Tess Way, Aria Harper, and William DeMars, whose diligence and dedication helped illuminate the life of Reverend White so that others might see it clearly. In addition, I also want to thank again Mr. Corey Rogers and the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History, the Georgia Historical Society, and the University of South Carolina Center for Civil Rights, History, and Research. And thank you to each and every one of you who are here today. Your presence, support, and belief in the work that we did have made this moment possible. We are truly grateful for your contributions to this historic achievement. When we did this marker, our hopes was that this marker will not simply just be a signpost from the past, but a beacon for the future. That it will spark curiosity in the hearts of young people who walk by and ask, who was William Jefferson White? And in that question, find the answer to what it means to live a life of purpose, service, and courage. We also hope that Augusta will take away from this marker a renewed commitment to celebrating those who helped our city move forward, those who stood tall in adversity, and those whose impact transcended our borders to shape not just Augusta, not just Georgia, but the nation. May this marker remind visitors and others who will come and, and visit Augusta to see what these great people have given and continue to give to the world. I would like to close by sharing the inscription on Reverend White's tombstone, which I think is fitting for this moment. It says, "Their lives were filled with good deeds and loving, self-sacrificing service." This sentiment captures his life perfectly. Reverend William Jefferson White was a minister of God, a builder of minds, a defender of justice, and a servant of the people. His life was indeed filled with good deeds, love, and self-sacrificial service. He is without a doubt a hero of Augusta and beyond. Thank you. Next, we will have remarks from Mr. Russell Joel Brown, an alum of Morehouse College. Then we'll have remarks from Reverend Hardy Bennings III, pastor of historic Springfield Baptist Church. Then we'll have remarks by Reverend Carl Simmons, pastor of Harmony Baptist Church. Thank you.
Building me a home. I'm building me a home. This earthly house is gonna soon decay, and my soul gotta have, Lord, somewhere to stay. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you. I am so pleased to be here today to celebrate William Jefferson White. I am a proud alumnus of Morehouse College, class of 1986. And quite honestly, when I was in high school, the last place I wanted to go to school was Atlanta. And the next to the last place I wanted to go to school was Morehouse. I said it's too close to Augusta, and everybody's already in Atlanta, and I don't want to go there. And, you know, I want to go far away so that I can establish myself and be who I want to be. Well, I'll just tell you that it was the very best decision of my entire life. I was a pretty good singer when I left Augusta, but it was not until I got to the Morehouse College Glee Club that I really found my voice. And I'll never forget one thing that my voice teacher told me. He said, never let someone change your God-given gift. Right. Just because they're hearing something, if that's not your voice, don't try to approximate that. Be the best singer with your instrument. And what a lesson for life. Don't let someone else define you. Define yourself and be the very best person that you can be. And so I bring you words today because I can't imagine that William Jefferson White could have imagined what Morehouse became. When he dreamed of this school and sat down with his co-founders, he could not have known what it became and what it is today and what a service it is to the world. But I know that he did believe and imagine a bastion of black male excellence. I do believe that he imagined a place where there would be a home for black male service to the world. And isn't that what it takes? One person with a kernel of an idea, not knowing the great oak that it can become. So I thank you very much for allowing me to be here. Thank you for Corey Rogers for the invitation, and have a great morning. Thank you.
Good morning again. Pastor Bennings texted me. He got stuck in traffic coming from Atlanta trying to get here with the weather and traffic. He's running behind. If he's able to make it a little later, we will ask him to come and give his remarks at that time. But at this time, on behalf of all of the ministers, officers, ministry leaders, and members, past and present, of the Harmony Baptist Church, we offer our most heartfelt and sincere gratitude to Ms. Ariel Harper, Mr. Mike Sanders, and Dr. Melissa DeVelvis for having the thought to initiate this project and seeing it through. We thank you so much. Come on, let's give them a hand this morning. And Dr. DeVelvis, I really hope that they have an A. They have an A. Please make sure that they get an A. Amen. A plus. Amen. In all things, we give praise, glory, and honor to our awesome, eternal Creator for all of his many blessings. Right at the time when Harmony marks its 157th birthday as a church and ministry within this Augusta community, you have honored us with this presentation. Our hearts, there's been so much excitement